There are three functions in DAX to compute maximum values. They are max, max_a, and max_x. There is a slight difference between max and max_a in the way they handle Boolean values, whereas max is nothing but the short version of max_x. Max_x is an iterator that iterates a table and produces the maximum values of an expression. In the case where the expression is only one column, you can use the shorter version max. Look at this code. I'm computing with max sales net price, the maximum net price in the sales table, and I have my result here. You can obtain the same result using max_x because the expression of which I'm computing the max is nothing but one column. So max and max_x in this case behave the same way. I need to use max_x if the expression to compute is a complex expression, not just one column. In that case, max_x computes a quantity times net price for every row in the sales table and produces as its result the maximum of all the values computed that far. The difference between max and max_a is in the way they handle Boolean values. You cannot use max_x with Boolean values. If you need to compute the maximum of a set of Boolean values, you need to use max_a. You see, here I'm computing the max_a of customer large family. Large family is a Boolean column in the customer table that indicates whether the customer has a large family or not. Max_a produces 0 or 1 depending on the maximum value, because false is translated to 0 and true is translated to 1. Using max_a actually returns 1 only if there is at least one row in the entire set that is true. If you want to use max_x, then you cannot use the Boolean column as it is. That would produce an error. You need to do the conversion of the Boolean into an integer. And you can do that by multiplying the Boolean value by 1, so that a Boolean value of false will translate to 0. 0 multiplied by 1 will be still 0. You need to use that expression if you want to use max_x. This is not very common because it doesn't happen so frequently to have to compute the maximum between Boolean values. An important detail about max is that you can use max with 1 or 2 arguments. If you use max with 1 argument, then you compute the maximum value of a column. If you use max with 2 arguments, then the arguments need to be expressions which are evaluated in the current context, and max returns the largest of the 2 expressions. Let's see that with an example. I have created the measure sales amount that just computes sales amount, and another measure that computes the largest between the sales amount and 10,000. When I use the measure, you see that when the sales amount is less than 10,000, 10K or sales amount returns 10,000. Whereas where the sales amount is larger than 10,000, you get the sales amount. So max can be used instead of a more complex if expression. It reads a bit better and it is shorter. You need to rely on max_x instead of max whenever you want to compute the maximum of an expression, or when you want to compute the maximum values of the values stored in a variable, because max accepts only columns which are already present in the model. If that column you want to search for the max is in a variable, then you need to use max_x. Let's see that with an example. Max monthly sales first creates a variable monthly sales that computes for every year and month the monthly sales. This is the column that I'm creating in the variable. Then I apply a filter to get rid of all the rows where monthly sales is less than 10,000. And then I want the largest of all these values. I cannot use max because I want the max of a column stored in a variable. Therefore, I need to use max_x to iterate over filter sales and compute the maximum of that column. This is one case where, even though the expression is only one column, I need to use max_x and I cannot just rely on max.